So there's a simple problem that I'm going to teach you guys how to solve today. Real estate agencies and a lot of other business types sit in meetings with prospects who aren't even going to buy from their services. Now, this isn't their fault, because a lot of people look at an ad and understand it a certain way to only find out later that the service being pitched to them wasn't what they were ready to sign up for. And there is a simple way to solve this problem. You can easily solve it with an AI system. The AI system that I'm going to be teaching you how to build, which is called an AI lead qualification and appointment booking system. This system allows you to verify if the person is worth your time, if the client is worth your time. And after it's verified if the client is worth your time, it then looks at your calendar and gives them 3 available slots that you've mentioned to the agent. And then they can book a 30-minute session with you. And that becomes a return on investment, because the people who pass that lead qualification test are often going to be the people who are within the scopes of what your agency is actually looking to work with. It looks for the people who are most likely to buy from your service and prioritizes them for calendar time, while also establishing who's qualified, who almost qualifies that you can reach out to later, and who certainly doesn't qualify. And if somebody doesn't qualify, just parts them with a no and refers them to a different business. So you're going to see in this system how this is going to make businesses so much money. And if you're looking to build this kind of system yourself or are looking to work with me, then feel free to click the link in the description where you can see my website, and you can just fill out the forms on the website and I'm going to reach out to you. So let's get straight into the video. Hey guys, so before we start building out the system, let's get to understand exactly how does it work and what is the structure of how we're going to be building it out. So as you can see, we have 3 different intake strategies, right? So this is our input and this is going to be our output. So firstly, we're going to be taking it in on WhatsApp, right? So we're going to have an AI agent embedded into WhatsApp that's going to be listening in and chatting with them and asking them one question at a time. These questions are going to make it feel like a normal conversation. However, this conversation is actually helping us understand and qualify each and every single one of the prospects who are reaching out to us on WhatsApp, right? Secondly, we have an email. Now, since we have a website form, the email acts as a bridge between WhatsApp and the website form, right? It asks questions outright in an email, because an email is much longer text and can actually help in terms of replying. But it replies with much longer text, asking questions, and it also offers the form. So it asks both of them. So it offers the form and the reply. And the third and final option is the website form, right? For now, we won't necessarily create a website form, but we'll see if we can. But usually what you'd want to do is embed this form in your website. And what would then happen is the website form would be the clients just filling it out themselves. So you could actually just use, for example, like a custom form. I wouldn't recommend using Google Forms or anything like that for this, just because you want this to be as professional as possible. I'd highly recommend embedding it into your website though. And then once they filled out the form, you already have all the answers that you're looking for. So these are all 3 different intake strategies, right? And depending on which one you're looking for, you just want to include all 3. So we're going to include all 3 in our prompt. And what then happens is the AI is going to score it, right? So firstly, it's going to ask, what is the budget? How soon do they need this? Is this work you do? And the whole idea of this is it checks the responses to all of the questions. And based on all of the responses, it can score it based on 1 to 10, seeing whether it qualifies or it doesn't qualify, right? Now, if the lead qualifies, what then happens is you then open 3 times to choose from. And by 3 times, I mean it has access to your calendar. And based on the availability of what you've told it, hey, these are my available slots, then it will open up 3 different slots in your day or in your week that it can choose from, or on each day, depending on how we lay it out. And once it opens up these 3 slots, then what's going to happen is that it's going to then use that to be able to then allow the person to book a meeting. So for example, if the person says, hey, I see that your Wednesday 6 p.m. slot is available. I would like to book a 30-minute session with you for then that's when you could use that. If they nearly fit, so based on the scoring, if they're almost there, but it's just a matter of alignment, right fit, but wrong time, then you add them to your follow-up list, right? And these are the people that you're going to reach out to later on. And this is often a list that gets overlooked because businesses don't realize the potential of what happens, especially new businesses don't realize the potential of what happens when you allow yourself to delay gratification and reach out to these guys who seem uncertain or lukewarm later, right? However, if somebody is definitely not a fit, then don't waste anyone's time. Just politely reply to them no and just let them go on with their days as you go on with yours. And this is something that a lot of people are afraid to do, but this saves you so much time and ultimately saves you a lot of money because you end up spending so much more money and time on people who aren't willing to pay for your services. And this is how you're able to now prioritize and spend your time on the clients that are actually worth your time. So now we're going to get straight into building it. Okay, so now that we've done the planning phase and we're going to leverage what we've learned in the planning phase, this is going to help us really put together a plan that's going to help us create a prompt that's going to start out this development project, and not just start it out, but start it out with an effective strategy that we're going to leverage. Now, I created an agency of my own. So this is like a real estate agency that I'm going to be testing this on. And we're going to use this as a development tool so that as we build this out, we get closer and closer towards where we want to go. So the first thing you want to mention is its role. So you are a brilliant AI system developer who leverages LinkedIn, WhatsApp, email, and calendar APIs to help founders, directors, and CEOs get the most out of their time through lead qualification and client booking systems. Now that it understands its role, we're going to now get into what is the context, right? So this is the role. And now what is the context of what we're talking about, right? So in terms of context, this is simply how it works. Well, we're going to explain to it what are we doing and why are we doing what we're doing. I want to create an AI lead qualification and client booking system that we use to help. And at this point, you can add any business that you're hoping to service. So for now, I'm going to look at real estate agencies. So that's going to help real estate agencies spend their time booking meetings with clients who are actually interested in their services to ensure the maximum ROI. Now that we have the context, what is the task, right? And the task is the actual job that we want the AI to do. And to create an effective AI lead qualification and client booking system. And we're hosted in this client booking and lead qualification system needs to work like that an AI agent is connected to WhatsApp and asks qualification questions as a normal conversation and based on the response. So currently, in terms of the prompt, the whole idea is with the AI WhatsApp chatbot, we're just giving it the framework, the same framework that we provided it here, right? So this is the same plan that we're following through in writing this prompt. And what I'm going to show you now is we tackling first the WhatsApp element, right? So we're going to tackle each of these one by one, right? So the second part of this is an email. Right. But I recommend we don't mention the email second. Let's mention the email last. The second part will be a website form, right? But we won't write it as a website form. So we'll just say a custom form should also be included as a possible means of response intake based on the response to the question you already qualified. And the third one is an email. So the email response should also be included in the response intake. Give it sure that just like your send email and also choose Terraform can be attached to the email. Now, we might also need a way to be able to track the database of the leads that qualify so that going forward, we know who to follow up with. So before we even do that, before we even go forward with who qualifies or qualifies who, well, what specifies the people who qualify and the people who nearly versus the people who don't, we first need to talk about how are we going to know who qualified, like once the agent has qualified the prospects. So we need to create some sort of database. So we'll tell it log every response into a Google sheet, which we can use as client database, noting all of the qualified and nearly qualified prospects along with your contact details. Awesome. Now, it's very important that you get as detailed as possible with the initial prompt, because this is the prompt that's going to set up your entire system. You want Claude Code to be able to give you the best possible results. So in order to be able to leverage it to its fullest potential, you need to be able to provide prompts as detailed as possible. Now, the goal of this is that if you can see how long this prompt is, right? I'm following a framework, and I'm going to show you I'm going to attach one of the videos where I speak about the prompting framework that I use. It's in one of my shorts. One of the first videos that I cover in my shorts is the prompting strategy that I use in order to be able to prompt AI agents effectively. Now, if you don't know how to prompt, that's okay. You can ask Claude to ask you a series of questions in order for it to be able to define the best possible result to be able to help you. Now, the issue with doing that is sometimes it doesn't know the right questions to ask. Now, this is why I say spend as much time as possible on your prompt so that you don't have to keep correcting your content later on, right? So we told it to log every response in a Google Sheet and use it as a client database. Now, let's speak about what defines whether a prospect is qualified. Here is what defines whether or not a prospect is qualified. Nearly or not. So it's qualified. And what the plan say? Right. So a qualified is worth an hour of your time. Qualified prospect, right, meets all the criteria, willing to buy, and is worth the time for meeting. Now let's speak to the agent about what to do with each prospect, right? So when they're qualified is what to do. So before we go there, we need to specify something else, right? So now we need to tell it about the calendar booking. You will also need to link the agent to a calendar such this should be subject to change. Now let's mention what happens to each thing. Here is what happens to the result of each stage qualification. So a lead is qualified, send them 3 slots to able to in a 30-minute session. Now what happens if they nearly qualify? If a lead nearly qualified, then to follow up on this repetition, so we can wait to 2 weeks, 1 month time. And then the last one is if a lead doesn't qualify, then kindly give them that we are unable to refer them to someone else. Okay. So this is the entire prompt so far, right? Now, the only thing left is to add in the business detail. So in terms of the business, I'm going to attach information. So this is the part where you attach the information on the business. So as much as you can. So I'd recommend, if you're working with the client, this is where you go into their website, scrape all of the information, throw it into Claude or throw it into ChatGPT, and get a proper summary and proper rundown and brief in document form of what is this business. Even if you have like a long text file that you can just paste in here, that would be amazing, because now that's going to help it define like how to qualify, what questions to ask you if there is a lack of clarity in order to do so. So now I've just attached a markdown file that is now in my downloads folder. So I just let it know that there's a markdown file in the downloads folder. So just for final notes, this is where you just add the small stuff. So for now, phone number for WhatsApp. So that's just a note that I have because I've done this before. If you watch the previous video, so we just wanted to make that process smoother. So we're just going to use a test phone number. If you have an actual phone number, then feel free to actually ask it and say, hey, so I want to embed the phone number I'm currently using, or embed this phone number specifically, and it'll be able to actually assist you with that. Now, the last part of this that I'd recommend adding so that everything just moves smoothly is your N8N API key. Now, where you're going to find this is, what you want to do is you want to create an account on N8N, and you can create an account here. So once you create your account, you're going to have a 2-week free trial where you can go crazy with N8N and do as much as you would like. So you can start a free trial, right? But yeah, so let's start the free trial. Awesome. So now you add your company email, which I'm going to submit over here, and then you're going to get a verification code. So we now have the verification code, and I'm going to submit it, and we're going to start our 14-day free trial. Now, the nice thing about N8N is they give you a whole bunch of tutorials. So there's a whole bunch of tutorials out there on how to build it. I think right now, with the way I'm going to show you how to do this, you won't even need to know the fundamentals of how to do it, but it's always good to understand how workflows work so that when you look through them, you can always just troubleshoot whenever these problems. Anyway, though, since I already have N8N, I'm just going to use the instance that I currently am using. So we're then just going to connect to the N8N API. By the way, if you don't have access to the N8N API, what you're going to do is, what you want to first do is just make sure that when you code on Claude Code, you download an N8N skill. So what you can do is just search up N8N Claude Code skills, right? And what happens is you see this GitHub repo, you just get it, and then like literally just paste the link. So you take this link and paste it into Claude Code and tell it to download the skill. Because what it can do is then you ask it to write a JSON file, which you're just going to paste into N8N, and it's going to work just as good. So the way I prefer to do it is to just use an API key, because then it can just go straight into it and then see what I need. So I'm just going to create an API key and then paste it into the prompt. Anyway, so I've just revoked all the API keys. So we're just going to create a brand new one, and I'm going to call it Qualify. You can name it whatever you like. So this API key will expire in 7 days, and we gave it all access. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to place it into the prompt. So N8N API. Awesome. So now we have that, and everything is about to begin, and we're about to have the agent do what it's meant to be doing. Hey guys, so it's created this setup and handover guide, but let's see what it's mentioned. So it gave us all of these, which it pasted into N8N. So these are all different workflows that are going to work together. Okay, cool. So it looks like we're going to use an app script for the Google Sheet. If you don't know how to do that, what I'd recommend doing is, if this is your result, chances are your results may vary from mine depending on your prompt. But it's always good to just ask questions. So for example, if I don't know how to create the app script, I'd ask it for the steps. So it's created a setup and handover guide, which is over here, right? Now we understand how it works and the scoring model. So it gives us everything we need and everything that works. So the first thing we need to do is create the lead database, right? So we need to go to script.google.com, and which is what we're gonna do. So let's go to script.google.com. Awesome. So we're at script.google.com. I'm gonna go to new project, as it's mentioning to us, and it's telling us to paste all of the contents of app script, create lead database GS. So set app script and then create lead database. Awesome. So we've opened it with VS Code, and then now I'm just gonna copy everything, delete all of this, and paste it here. And then before I deploy it, let's see if there's anything we need to do. So Google will warn that the script is unverified. Go to project, unsafe. So we're gonna deploy it, new deployment. Oh wait, we meant to save it then run it instead of deploying it. So let's save it, and then now let's run it. So this is just a simple process. So let's review the permissions it's asking us for. Advanced, and then we're gonna go to untitled project. Okay, so it gave us an error, right? So let's find out where the issue is. So this is where we start to let the agent know what happened. I ran fix it. Awesome. But while that's running, let's see what else we have. So looks like we're gonna need the lead database. So without the lead database, then we can't really do much. So we'll wait for the response from Claude. Awesome. So we just got a response from Claude. So we're gonna do exactly what it tells us to do. And what it's telling us to do is grab the whole file from create lead database.js, right? So we're gonna open that, we're gonna copy it, and then just delete the line 83 in the editor. So let's run it and see what happens. I mean, if it doesn't work, then we'll just paste the code as it was, but it mentioned to just delete line 83. So we did exactly that, and everything went as planned. So now we have the URL to our docs file. So our spreadsheet. Awesome. Now let's take a look at it. So now we have everything we need for our lead database. Awesome. Now let's find out what next to do on the artifact. So the Claude artifact now tells us that we need to point workflows at it, right? So I need to run this command. So we're gonna run this, right? So we're gonna go to the terminal. So let's go to the terminal. If you're using Mac, if you're using Windows, you're probably gonna need to run this in your PowerShell, in Windows PowerShell. But in Mac, it's like a terminal. And then I'm gonna need to get my N8N API key. So once I have the N8N API key and spreadsheet ID, so let's get the spreadsheet ID first. So the ID is right here, right? So we meant to paste that into N8N, but we'll see where. But for now, we'll just place it right there. So that's where we're gonna place it. And then we're gonna replace our API key over there. So you're gonna see it now. Cool, anyway, as you can see, we ran it in the terminal and this was the result. So we have everything done there. And I'm just gonna make sure that I close it. Awesome, so now it's closed. Now let's look at the rest of the artifact and see what it tells us to do. So now we have to create 3 credentials. So in N8N, we need to go to overview, credentials, add credential. We need to add Anthropic. So we paste in the Anthropic API key. So I'm choosing to use Anthropic for this model, but you can use any other LLM model if you'd like to. So Sterling and Vance is the company that I'm choosing to work with for this one, right? So don't get confused when you see Sterling and Vance. That's the name of the company, the real estate agency that I'm working with for this project, right? So let's get all 3 of these credentials. Since you don't really need Anthropic, what you can do is you can prompt. So if you want to have like a free model, what I would recommend for you to use is OpenRouter. So OpenRouter allows you to have access to all kinds of AI APIs, and you can have all of them completely for free. Of course, you have limited usage on them, but you can actually test out some really cool models, and they have like a really generous free plan. So once you have that, you can get your API key. So once you've done so, you can get the API key and then begin to prompt Claude and let it know that you're using OpenRouter. Of course, it gives you some of the code, so you can just paste that code in your prompts as well, just to give it a better understanding of the models you're dealing with as well. But so I already have my Anthropic API key. So now I just need to do Gmail OAuth 2, right? So let's look through the workflows, right? So we're gonna look through some of these workflows. So let's look at the first one, the core engine. So we're just gonna configure. So is it MTL systems? Okay, let's just test this. Okay, cool. So this is correct. So we just need to put in our Gmail OAuth, right? So let's start with Google Calendar. So it says invalid OAuth URL. So let's see what the artifact says about that. So we're gonna have to set this up manually, right? So how are we gonna do this? Sign up with Google. So is it custom OAuth 2? So we're gonna have to go into custom OAuth 2. And how we then going to deal with that is we're going to go to Google Console, right? Google Cloud Console. And on Google Cloud Console, you're going to be able to create your client ID and your client secret. That's going to help with this whole thing that's happening here. So let's get calendar, right? Oh, wait. So let's go to console. So first we need to actually get into the console. And then we're going to look for calendar, right? And once we find Google Calendar API, we can go there and we can enable it. Awesome. So we've enabled Google Calendar, and now we also want Gmail. So we're going to enable Gmail as well. So this shouldn't take long at all. So I'm guessing Gmail has been set up as well. And the last one we're going to set up is Google Drive and Google Sheets. I'm sure Google Sheets is already set up, but nowadays you just never know. So it's always good to just set it up. And Google Sheets API. Awesome. So Google Drive has been set up and Google Sheets is now set up. Now we're going to go to credentials. So now you go to credentials, and then we have a few credentials, but now we're going to create an OAuth client ID. And the application type is a web application. I'm going to call it N8N project, right? And then authorized redirect URIs. Let's go back and we're going to copy this, right? So this is what's going to ensure that it only works on yours. So we have an authorized redirect URI, and that's everything we need. So let's make sure that's everything. So that's everything. So we'll copy the client and the client secret. Awesome. So now we're going to save these. So let's sign in with Google and see what happened. Awesome. So that worked. We know that this works now. And then we're just going to check Gmail. Let's see if it'll let us sign in. It won't. So we're just going to have to create a custom one. We have our client secret, and then we're going to get our client ID. Let's test this and see if it'll work. Okay. So we had an issue with one of them. Okay. So now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to provide client ID and client secret to N8N. By the way, after this, all of these are getting revoked because that is a security risk to be doing that. So anyway, I've provided it with my client ID, client secret, and I already had my Anthropic API key saved within there. So we're going to use that. And yeah, so now we're going to see what comes of it. I'm hoping that it can now start to configure everything, and then we can start to test out the system. And yeah, and then in terms of everything else on the artifact, yeah, so we can see the rest of the artifact now. So let's see what else awaits for us. So they'll be attached to the waiting nodes, and then yeah, so it just updates us on the way the rest of the workflow works now, right? So now the last thing to do is to get a token that will not expire. So we need to go to facebook.com, business.facebook.com/settings, right? So let's do that. business.facebook.com/setting. Okay, it's fine. We'll just go to settings from here. So we'll find them, and then let's see what next that artifact is requesting. So system users add, right? System users. Awesome. Anyway, we got our response. So it updated our Claude artifact, letting us know some additional information. So that was cool. But to summarize it, we just had to really add this redirect URL to the additional one that we had within Google Cloud Console. And then now I'm just going to ask, so it would be good to follow through with this. But yeah, this is just to speak about that whole thing about it shouldn't expire. But of course, if I was going to use this permanently, so if I was building this out production wise, I would think of using Google Workspace for this kind of workflow, because you'd want this to be something that works at an enterprise level. But yeah, I think I just want to find out when it's ready for testing. So when is the system ready for testing? Because I think that's just the most important part of where it currently lies. So we can just test it out and see where the systems lie. It looks like everything's been built. All the workflows are all there. So yeah, I think we'll look at that as well. Which actually reminds me, we need to find an easy and effective way to create a test phone number for WhatsApp. Right, so let's stop that before we find out anything more. I need to create a test phone number to use on WhatsApp or Facebook developer. So now it's just going to look through the Facebook developer documentation and then let us know what to do from there. Awesome. So it's given us some direction on what to do next. So it tells us we're going to create a fresh one on developers.facebook.com.apps. So let's do exactly that, right? So that's where we're going to go. So let's continue with Facebook. And then I'm just going to add my login credential and my password. I think it was the correct one. It should have been. Awesome. So cool. So now we're going to create a new app. We just delete this. So these were just some test apps that I was running as well. And then I'll delete that one later. But I'm going to create a new app. So I'm going to call this app automated lead. Cool. So that's going to be our app contact email. And then let's see what else it tells us to do. Oh, we should have named it Sterling Vans, but that's okay. So we're going to connect with customers through WhatsApp. So that's at the bottom. So then, yeah, we'll just connect with AppDeal AI. Then we're going to create the app. Anyway, as we're connecting WhatsApp, now we're going to go to use case, and then we're going to go to connect with customers through WhatsApp. Awesome. So let's continue. Gonna accept the terms of service. Cool. So now we're gonna just try it out. So we're gonna run through each step of the process. Cool. So we have our test phone number and our test phone number ID. So I'm gonna add a recipient. So yeah, go. So I'm gonna add my number. Cool. Anyway, got my verification code, and so we got it. Everything has worked. And so now let's see what is next. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the phone number ID and give it back to Claude. So phone number ID, and then WhatsApp business account ID, and then the access token. I'm going to generate an access token. So this looks like the process to generate an access token. So we got it. So now we have our access token that can do everything it needs to do. So it's probably going to run that in the terminal as well. And then speak about limits worth knowing. So the test phone number only allows 5 recipients. So, I mean, once you're happy with the test, you can ask Claude how to actually move from test to production. So you can have like a production phone number that I think you purchase that phone number. And then once you have that, so you might need like a VoIP phone number, or to actually just go to like a local cellular network of some kind, like Cell C, Telcom, and just get a phone number that you can use separately for the agent. And now the agent will have its own phone number to be able to actually now contact your clients. Now, a lot of people think, why not just have the AI agent on one WhatsApp channel? Like, for example, if I'm using one phone number, why not just have it on this phone number? Now, the issue with that is that you want to be able to separate and have your agent send you and delegate to you separately after having dealt with your clients. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have control over what happens, because you'll have the app. If need be, you'll be able to intervene. But it's just a matter of allowing the agent now to be able to have a separate points of contact, so that where need be, it can delegate and hand over to you, you know. But yeah, I think we'll discuss that in later videos. Anyway, now the last part that's been left is to sign in on Google on every part that needs to be done. So I've done one of them now. So I'm about to do the others while you watch. So now we're on the calendar. So what you do is you're in N8N. So once you've selected your workflows, you click this pencil button over here and you go to sign in with Google. Now that you have your credentials and everything that you need, and we're just going to go to AppDL systems. So don't be afraid of this. You just need to turn it into a production workflow before, a production app within Google Cloud Console, so that it won't flag it like that. But you should be safe. Okay, and the last one is Gmail. So let's go for it. Same story. Awesome. So now that that's done, that should work. So I'll just let it know that I've signed into everything. Okay, so let me just ask it, how do I get by step? So apparently this token that I currently have expires within 3 hours. So maybe there's a way for us to prolong this by getting a system user token, right? But I don't think it's something that matters, but I think it's just good to just run through it and make sure that at least by the time today's over, that we can just have the token ready, you know, because the token I had there was a temporary one, which means I'll have to keep changing it, which will become a very tedious task. So it's good to always ensure that no matter how long it takes, that you want to build out your systems as thoroughly as possible, you know. But yeah, anyway, we're going to navigate to business.facebook.com, and we're going to look for system users, right? So now we're going to add a system user. So let's find out what the name of the system user is. So I'm just going to name it Sterling Vance Bot, because Sterling Vance, remember, is the name of the company we're working with. So done. Sterling Vance Bot admin, I think. So let's find out. Yes, admin, and then create system user. Can't have too many hyphens. Okay, so we'll just call it Sterling Vance Bot. So that should be good. So we'll just wait for it to be deployed. Awesome, now it's done. So let's find out what it needs. Okay, so we have our ID. Let's go forward. I think we might have gone back. So now we can assign it assets. So let's see what assets to assign it. So apps and automated lead qualification. So we'll just give it access to all the apps. Hey guys, so just an update. So yeah, I tried to run the first method where I created a system user, and it just told me that on the actual app that I was meant to create, that I couldn't create an app without having the account for more than 7 days. So what I did was I went to Facebook developer and went to settings, and now I'm using the app secret, which is what I'm gonna provide now, right? Yeah. So anyway, looks like we'll run that. So I'll just add in the app secret. Anyway, the system's finally ready to be tested. So we're gonna start by testing the WhatsApp, and we're gonna see. So yeah, let's see how this works, right? So I'm gonna ask it to give me a series of questions to ask the WhatsApp agent if I qualified, right? So let me start with this one. To buy house in Sandhurst. So let's see what happens. Super exciting stuff. Let's just make sure all of the workflows are deployed, because if they aren't, then we're not gonna expect to receive much. So they are deployed. Okay, so this is where we start to troubleshoot and find out what the problem is. Now, as we're troubleshooting the problem, we can start to see where it lies. I was looking into the workflows, the workflow executions, and the issue came here in Claude. So Claude was set with a temperature, and now the agent was correcting it because it's not supposed to have a temperature. So as you can see now, we got a response, right? So it should conclude the response now. And so now with that mentioned, we just got to make sure that every other agent is going to work as well. Anyway, let's continue testing out the agent. So it says, thank you for reaching out. This is Sterling and Vance Properties. Good to know. Sandhurst is one of our core areas. May I ask your name and whether this would be a primary residence or second home? My name is Nash, and this would be let's say primary residence. So let's see how that goes. Thank you, Nash. What sort of budget are you working with for this move? I am looking at a budget between 4 million and 8 million rand. So as you can see, it's asking us qualification questions, and I'm not sure how the scoring is happening on the back end yet, because this is from the user's perspective. So we'll soon be able to see what's happening in the back end. Anyway, let's look at our executions in the meantime. So we have one more error. So now we can debug this one in the editor. So let's try redo that step. Hey guys, so here is the WhatsApp chatbot. And so we are just going to test this out, right? So we're going to see how we can test this out, and we're going to check that our system is working perfectly. So this is a lead qualification system for a real estate agency. Hi there. So first we're just going to greet and see what happens. I think the qualification will start immediately. Good afternoon. Can I get your name and let me know whether you are looking to buy, sell, invest, or rent? Absolutely. By the way, you can absolutely train it on how to go about conversation. Like, for example, if you prefer that it starts with good afternoon, you are speaking to, how can I assist you? You know, we can start with that. But I think for this one, it's more of a qualification agent. So it just gets straight into the qualification questions. So absolutely. I'm looking to buy a property. So most people don't know which responses to give. So it guides you through the process, you see. And for example, I'd forgotten to provide my name. So it's good that it's picking that up. My name is Nash. So it says, thank you, Nash. What budget range are you working with, and how would the purchase be funded? Cash, trust, or bond? The budget range I am working with is between 4 million to 7 million rand, and I am funding it through cash, or let's just say a bond, through a bond. And let's see what happens. Understood. Is that bond already pre-approved? And which suburbs and type of property are you considering? Yes, the bond is pre-approved, and I am considering a standalone home or something. So I just let it know that I'm looking for a standalone home or something of that nature. So we'll see what it replies with. Okay, so it's responded and let us know that good to know. It's good to know it's pre-approved. Which suburbs are you focused on, and when would you like to be in, and what's the prompting move? Suburbs I am focused on are the ones in Bryanston or Sandton, and I would to be in next week Tuesday to find a bigger home to accommodate you family. That's what prompting the move. Okay, so we're gonna see what it lets us know. I'm not sure how many questions. I think it should be around 5 or 6 questions ultimately. So we have one last decision. Are you the sole decision maker on this, and are you under a signed mandate with another agent? No, I am not under a signed mandate with another agent, and I am definitely the sole decision maker. Cool. So I think once that's done, I think now the qualification process will begin. So we'll see what happens next after the qualification process. So this is simply like just a rundown with the agent. So hopefully once this is done, we can start to see what the qualification process now looks like. So as you can see, it's made 3 times available, right? So it says, thank you, Nash, from what you shared. And what does this mean? It's made 3 times available because I qualify according to the prospect, well, according to the agent and the perimeters that the agent has been set around. I qualify, which means from what I've shared, 4 million to 7 million rand in Bryanston Sandton with a pre-approved bond moving immediately. You are precisely the kind of client this desk is built for. I've put you with senior sales agent 2. So obviously, if you had your agent name, so for example, I've put you with Jonah from Bryanston, and now he has these 3 appointment times. So it shows him, okay, Wednesday, the 12th of August at 9 o'clock, Thursday, the 13th of August at 9, and Friday. So let's try book one of these. So I'm going to try book one of these. Let's try the Wednesday and let's see what happens. Okay, as you can see, we click the link, which means we've selected our option and our meeting is confirmed. Wednesday, the 12th of August at 9 o'clock, 30 minutes with the senior sales agent, and lets them know that we need to have a photo ID or passport, proof of funds, and everything that would be necessary in order to go ahead with this process. It also will send them like a non-disclosure agreement, but of course this can be as part of. Awesome. So now I think we're just gonna look at the form as well and see how that goes. But I think the agent works perfectly. But as you notice, it gives us a score, right? So this is the back end. Once a prospect qualifies, also within our emails, you can see whenever there's an error, it lets us know, but it sends us this email which lets us know, hey, so the person qualified, so Nash qualified, so 88 out of 100, so I fit 68 out of 80. So this is the scoring system that allows us to know that, hey, whether I'm qualified or unqualified. And the channel is WhatsApp, the contact is my phone number, and I found out that the transaction is by and everything I would need to know. So all of this information can then get passed to the agent who would need this information. And I mean, of course, this is not everything you would need to know. You need to know more. But as a foundation, this lays out a solid foundation, And so, of course, there's more about the system that can be refined in the sense that you can make this look prettier, but you could easily do that with N8N by HTML formatting the text. But I think it's just exciting to see what is possible with this automation. And as you saw throughout this entire video, I haven't written a single line of code. But anyway, let's get straight into the form submission. So let's see that. So this is now the intake form and what it looks like. So my name is Nash. My email address is anashistefan@abdlsystems.com. My phone number is +27 65 55 32. And I'm looking to buy a primary residence. A budget range is, this time we'll state something low, right? So we'll say something like 300,000 Rand. How will it be funded? Bond not yet started, right? Which suburbs are you looking for? We're looking for not sure yet. Now, in the way we're gonna fill out this form, the plan is to not really qualify. So let's see, what sort of property? Other. When would it like to be in? Just exploring. Or let's say more than a year. No, we'll just say just exploring. What's prompting the move? Don't really have a reason. Just trying to see what's out there. I'm expecting that this won't qualify. And if I don't, that would be a very good thing because it's able to judge the prospects who are serious from the ones who aren't. Someone else must approve. Anything else we need to know? Nope. Working with another agent? No. Okay. So we'll submit the inquiry. And I'm curious to see whether the agent will deem that the person qualifies or doesn't qualify. Because as we can see, the qualification agent is working perfectly. So this is what it says. Thank you for your inquiry. Thank you for reaching out to Sterling Vance Properties, Nash. Having looked properly at your offer, it sits outside what the desk handles. Budget below 4 million Rand with no flexibility. Target area falls outside Johannesburg and coastal service areas. We're a boutique agency covering Sandton, Hyde Park, Bryanston, Sandhurst, Morningside, Waterfall, and Fourways Golf Estates, working roughly from 4 million Rand upwards. Rather than take up your time with a service that isn't the right one, I'd be glad to introduce you to a trusted partner agency who will be able to help you properly. Say the word and I'll make that introduction today. I'm sorry. So the nice thing about this is you can see it's a hearty message. It's a very polite rejection, but it helps save the time of everybody and it keeps the unqualified prospects out. And as you can see, so this is from the previous one. So this lets us know who didn't qualify. But as you can also see, you do get a meeting invite, right? So you get a meeting invite once you've selected which meeting you're going to. So if you clicked yes on this one, then you're attending the meeting invite. So that's correct. I think the only thing I'll add to that is just to ensure that for each prospect that gets a WhatsApp message, they're able to put in their email to receive a meeting invite. So that's just the one thing I forgot to do. But it's a very small step that we can easily add in the process through Claude Code. And as you can see, it also lets us know who didn't qualify. So throughout the form, and you can see all the details of the person who didn't qualify, including their contact details. Now, this is so important because sometimes you'll find that maybe a person didn't qualify, but based on their response, there's something else that your business might be able to offer them, which is why you can now leverage these contact details, save them somewhere, and reach out to them for a different service. But if they're completely not serious, then you might as well just discard or do away with their services, you know. But yeah, so this is the lead qualification system. And then I think the next thing is just the email intake system, which we're now going to look at. Anyway, we're now going to test the email intake agent. So we're going to say inquiry about SV properties. So that's our subject. Good afternoon. I'm looking to buy a property within Bryanston, Sandton, and thought you guys would be the right people to reach out to. My budget is currently 5 million rand, and just to see what alone standing homes are available. Warm regards, Nash. So we're gonna send that and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. Now, as you can see, we just received a reply from our agent. So it says, thank you for writing, and notice how quickly the response came. So it came so quickly. It says, thank you for writing to Sterling and Vance Properties, Anasha. 5 questions we will know. 5 questions and we will know whether we're the right desk for you. It takes about a minute. So please answer the following questions in 2 ways. Choose whatever you prefer, but please don't do both. Question 1, reply to this email. So it has 5 questions in the email. And option 2, use our form. So let's reply to the email since we already used the form previously. So question 1 says, are you buying, selling, renting, or investing? Buying. And is it the primary residence? Yes, it's the primary residence. So for this one, we're going to try see if we can hit the third option, the second option, which is not qualifying, but what is it? So it was qualified and, well, a potential qualification prospect. So what is the second question? What budget range are you working with and how would it be funded? 5 million rand will be funded cash. What suburbs or sort of property? Bryanston suburb, looking for a long-standing home. 4. When would you like to be in and what's prompting the move? I would like to be in within the next 11 months because by then a baby would have come and we would be ready to move. Awesome. And then now we have option 5. Are you the sole decision maker? Okay, yes, I am. My wife and I are the decision makers. Awesome. So we're going to send that reply and we're going to see what happens next. So as you can see, we have the reply. So it says, thank you, Anasha. You're a good fit for the way we work. 5 million rand in Bryanston, and given a 6 to 12 month horizon, though, sitting down now would be premature. The stock we'd show you today won't be on the market when you're ready. And I'd rather not waste the trip. You're on our watch list. Senior sales agent. So again, you can name these sales agents anything you like. So not just senior sales agent 2, but Brandon, one of our senior sales agents, will come back to you around the 31st of August with what has moved in Bryanston. And this just keeps them updated and keeps them, like, the whole idea of this is we don't want to just reach out to them randomly in 10 months when they've already moved on and decided on a different real estate agency. You want to be consistently speaking to them, consistently reminding them, and just keeping yourself at the top of their mind so that when they're ready to make the decision, you're right there. So if your timing tightens before then, or your funding position firms up, reply here and we'll bring it forward. So that's just the whole idea behind it. And yeah, looks like all three of our agents work perfectly. Now the only thing to look at is to see if where they are. So this is the second category I was talking about. They're nearly qualified. So they're not quite qualified and they don't qualify. So they're right in the middle. So these are the people who qualified, but the timeline wasn't right. So the score was 79 out of 100. And we have everything about this client. So the nice thing about this is you can link this to your CRM records. You can keep track of every single person who reaches out to you, you know. And the beauty of this is that as you begin to get further and further and deeper with this process, you'll begin to notice that you start to have meetings and arrange meetings with the people who are actually willing to buy and ready to buy, even if that means you now have less meetings. Now, the good thing about this is even when you start to push out ads for your real estate agency, you start to get people who are actually interested in your product and interested in whatever services you're looking at, whether it's real estate, business consulting, products and services. And when you host meetings, the meetings are actually worth your time. So I hope you found this tutorial useful. I'm going to be dropping a ton of value on this channel that you're going to be able to use to sell products to other businesses or learn how to build your own AI systems for your own agency. So I'd recommend that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on the next time I drop a video. I've also launched a software product that's going to help new agency founders find clients within 30 days. And if you want to be one of the first people to sign up to get this software for free, then comment Founder OS. And I'm going to send you the link to this product so you can sign up for free while it's still free. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this.